everyone, it's me, Krista. Welcome back to my channel if you've been here before. If not, welcome for the very first time to my little art corner here on YouTube. Today is going to be day 12 of Inktober. Today's prompt is dragon. There are a lot of different ways you can go with the word dragon. You can go for medieval paintings, you could go for Asian style dragons, water dragons, air dragons, fire dragons, frost dragons, etc., etc. I decided to take the style inspiration from the Elder Scrolls Skyrim. Specifically, I looked at reference photos of Parthenax. The end product looks absolutely nothing like him, but that is where I was at least referencing. I think if I do dragons again, I'll probably use photos of bats and different kinds of lizards. I think figuring out the anatomy would be easier if I use those as reference points. This is another 4x6 drawing. It is one of the ones that I am not using the toned paper for. This time I'm using Strathmore marker paper. The plan was just to lay down some black ink and correct with white ink. But first we're getting the sketching with the mechanical pencil. So why did I choose the inspiration to be Skyrim? It's a good question. I love dragons in video games specifically. One of the first ones that I remember really liking was obviously Spyro the Dragon. That was the first PlayStation game I ever got. Another one was a Might and Magic 8, I want to say it was, where you could have a dragon in your party at a certain point in time. The most recent, and the one that I've played the most and am the most obsessive about, has been Skyrim. I do not know how many hours I have into it. My boyfriend bought me the re-release for the PS4 with the extra fancy graphics going on. And I always have a lot of fun playing, and it's definitely one of those games where I feel like I lose time every single time I play it. The dragons in it are always really cool. Great variety of different types, especially with the different expansions on. I was contemplating using Alduin as my reference, but I decided I wanted to do Parthenax. He's my favorite. When it comes to the choice of killing him at the one point in the game, I can never do it. I just can't. He's my favorite. But I will take the difficulty I had with this one as being a bonus. I learned a lot of stuff that I can apply later for if I ever decide to do something similar to this again. I also think if I were going to do something with this much line work and detailing that I would definitely choose a larger sheet of paper. This 4x6 just was not quite cutting it for what I needed it to do. Which I am a big advocate of making mistakes during projects and trying to see what you did and see what you can learn from them. And even though I'm not exactly happy with the final result of this one, I feel like I learned a lot. And for this, I did end up using 3 different black markers or pens. I'm using the black gel pen, which I'm using for a lot of it. I'm using that same Kuretake Zig marker with the Japanese writing on it with the fine tip that we still don't know what it was. I also brought in a Tombow dual-ended marker, which was a mistake because I forgot for some reason when you go over it with anything, a white marker or a white gel pen, that it reactivates the black. These are water-based, and they're the kind of water-based that even when they're really dry, if it comes in contact with anything wet, it pulls it up and mixes. Which, depending on what you're doing, that can be cool. For something like this, it didn't work out. But I am doing a lot of cross-hatching and a lot of little lines with the smaller marker and with the black gel pen as well to get various textures going on. And at this point of the drawing, I do like how it looks. I know the big mess up was doing the background black. When I did that, I lost a lot of my lines and therefore a lot of what I actually liked about this one. If I do a similar style to this again, I will not use a color in the background. I will just leave it the color of the paper I am using. And I am sorry that my voice is getting a little raspy sometimes. 'Tis the season for weather changes, and anytime there are weather changes, I get a little sniffly and occasionally a little raspy. I am trying to use really thin lines and then thicker lines, experimenting with the line weight and with some of the textures to insinuate shading and depth. And this is where I start trying to fill in the background a little bit. I start with the thinner Kiritake Zig marker, and then I switch to the Tombow when I realize that this one's not giving me quite the coverage I wanted. Deciding to do the background black, like I just said, wasn't the best decision for this one. It pulls away from a lot of the detailing that I did on the dragon itself, and I think leaving it white and then having the thicker outlines would have made him stand out a little bit more. This project also took a little bit longer than the other ones I've been doing for Inktober. I think part of that was just me attempting to fix certain mistakes I made and refusing to just start it over. There was just a certain point where I had put in quite a bit of time on this one, and I did not feel comfortable starting from scratch. I am bringing in some glassine to put under my hand to help avoid some smudging. I did have a little bit of smudging going on, but this helped prevent more. I also do want to point out that with a lot of the line work I did, especially with the scales on the belly, I tried to follow the shapes that I had set up for his belly scales as much as possible. I think that helped add some texture and to differentiate the different sections of the dragon a little bit more by having the lines go in differing directions based off of what I was doing. A very large chunk of this drawing was going back and forth just between the blacks I have going on and thickening up certain lines, adding more texture and trying to add more definition. I also bring in the white gel pen to add some stars or snow in the background. I also pull in a white Posca pen to do that as well. I use both the white gel pen and the white Posca pen to pull up white for outlines of the dragon and just for certain sections. And this is the point where I remembered that I don't like using the Tombow markers if I'm going to go over them with anything else unless I'm intentionally going for a specific look. Because, as I said earlier, they re-wet really easily. It doesn't matter how dry they are. I did an experiment where I drew a bunny and then a week later I went over it with some water on a brush and it pulled up the bunny completely. Just wanted to share the discussion of that experiment because I knew better than to use that marker on the background. Oops. Now I'm just adding shading to the rock or ground area underneath the dragon. It's holding onto it with one of its claws while it's crouching. And it's not one of its claws, it's one of its little hands, feet, whatever. It's crouching and grabbing onto it. And I do keep pulling in the different pens and markers to help pull out certain sections. Trying to bring out more highlights to make the dragon stand out a little bit more against that background that I decided on. I didn't want it to blend in too much. And I'm doing my favorite thing of layering and jumping back and forth between the different media to get different effects and adjust as I go. That's all I can do at this point, is just try to adjust everything as I keep on moving. At this point I do decide to bring in the brush tip of that Tombow marker to create some very heavy, thick lines for certain sections of the dragon. Trying to get a bunch of different line weights and see what sticks and what works as much as possible. I do like that jagged edge effect I got on the wing in the upper left-hand corner of the drawing. I think if I do more dragon drawings ever in the future, I'm going to want to replicate that and use it for most of the wings. For some reason, I just really like how it looks. I find it aesthetically pleasing. I also add some more little claws on his other wing, and we're just still adjusting shapes and shading and lines. Just continually adjusting everything. I'm starting to see why this one took me a little bit longer than a lot of the other Inktober drawings I've done. I am moving everything around and adding different elements and just shifting everything throughout pretty much the entire time. I'm also not using toned paper for this one. If I would use toned paper, I would have had an automatic point of gray, and doing that can save a lot of time with ink drawings like this, because I would have been able to do a lot less lines to get a similar idea going on. For some reason at this point I decided I didn't like the mouth, so I decided to readjust a bunch of sections on the head again. Can't tell you why I didn't like it now, but I just didn't care for how it looked, so I've moved stuff around yet again. I also realized at this point that I could have filmed this drawing a little bit more close up. And pretty soon here, towards the end, you'll get to see a little bit more of the detail work, because I'm going to zoom in a little bit, so you guys can see stuff a little bit better. There, now you guys can get a little bit of a better idea of all the different lines I have going on in their different directions and their different weights. You have a little bit of a better idea of the texture I've been working with this entire time. But yeah, at this point we are just rinsing and repeating between the different markers. And this video is almost done. If you liked this video, please feel free to hit that like button. If you have any comments, questions, feelings, or concerns, or you want to let me know what you've been doing for Inktober and what supplies you've been using, let me know in that comment section down below. If you want to see more videos like this, please feel free to hit subscribe. I look forward to hearing from you guys soon, and you'll definitely be hearing from me soon. Bye, everybody!